Ladies and gentlemen, that Rockwell timepiece says it's time. So come on in, stay a while. It's time to get coached up with another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Rockwell continues to be a proud partner of the Coach Scott Field Show, and I'm a proud brand ambassador for Rockwell. So if you go to rockwelltime.com and you use the code COACH20, you will receive 20% off of any order there from that website. They've got great looking merchandise. Also, smash and subscribe that button on YouTube. And then if you're listening to us in podcast form, my longtime friend Joby Wright and I say, turn that knob up. We're about to put that sports flavor in your ear. If you're watching us on DBTV Monday through Fridays at 1 o'clock, over 300 million households have the opportunity to see us live. If you're checking us out on CSTV, that's on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Or you can catch us out of Chicago on the Rewind Sports 60. No matter how you consume our show, I am grateful and I'm appreciative, but it takes outstanding guests just like my friend here tonight, Joby Wright. Joby, welcome to the show, my friend. I'm excited to have you, brother.
God, it's great to be with you, Scott. I'm looking forward to having this conversation.
You bet. Well, just so our viewers know, matter of fact, I'm even wearing that Indiana Sports Hall of Fame. You and I were inducted the same evening by Tim Turpin there, and what a distinguished honor. How did that make you feel when you received the call that you were being inducted?
You know, it was a great feeling, Scott, and especially to experience that night. What a special weekend that was. You know, I didn't know what to expect, and to see all of the different athletes who have born and raised or played sports in Indiana be recognized and be a part of that. Man, it was outstanding. Great evening. You know, and Tim Turpin needs to be saluted for what he's doing. He's doing a heck of a job.
Yes,
Outstanding.
he is. Yes, he is. And I'll tell you what, when I had received word that you were going to be inducted on the same night, I got to tell you, I couldn't wait to see you, hug you, catch up with you. And I'm so glad that our tables and chairs were sitting close to each other, just to share that time together was just so meaningful to me, and it meant the world.
Well, you know, just to have an opportunity to catch up. You know, it had been a while since I had seen you. So it was really a great time. We had a great time. Excellent time.
Yeah. I agree. Well, let's talk about Joby Wright. You know, for the fans, even nationally, internationally, Joby played his college basketball at Indiana University. Your senior year, you were able to play for Coach Bobby Knight. And then after being drafted by the Sonics, you came back, completed your degree, and got to coach for, I think, 9 seasons with Coach Knights. What was it like going from your junior to senior year and meeting Coach Knight and being a player for him? What could you tell right away was going to be different about that culture and what Coach Knight was going to bring to that program?
You know, the interesting thing about it, Scott, about 2 years before, it was right after my sophomore year, I had an opportunity to try out for the USA developmental team. And so they invited a number of guys. I think it was at least 68 guys, enough to fill 4 teams. So anyhow, one evening at this trial camp, boy, the guys were getting a little restless, and so the next day, one of the coaches came to talk to us, and that coach was John Bach, and John Bach was the coach who was a part of the Chicago Bulls. He's a former head coach. I think it was the University of Pennsylvania. And so he was telling us, all the guys, he had brought it wasn't all of us, but it was a group of us. And he was telling us about this coach that was supposed to be at the camp, but he wasn't, for whatever reason, he couldn't attend. So he started telling this story about this coach. And he was talking about, this guy's a tough guy. and he's just going through all these different stories about how tough this guy. You guys think you tough. Hey, you're fortunate that he isn't here. And his name is Coach Bobby Knight. He's at Army at West Point. It's okay. All right. So fast forward, we got to have a new coach. And so when Coach Knight's name came up, President Ryan, who was the president at that time, I was the captain, my junior year, co-captain. So he called me and said, "Hey, Joby, we found you guys a new coach, and his name is Bobby Knight, and he's from Army." I'm like, "Oh, I know that guy. I've heard about him. Yeah. And the interesting thing about that team, I call it minimizing and maximizing opportunities. Well, during those trials for that particular team, a guy got injured, Roy Ebron. I think Roy went to, Southwest Louisiana or something like that. But he was going to the basket to dunk the ball, and Darnell Hillman blocked his shot. And that was the first time I had ever seen Darnell Hillman. And Darnell Hillman oh my goodness, this guy could jump out the gym. So he ended up injuring them. So they got to send for a substitute. So we're sitting there, me and some of the guys that I was close with. And so we see this guy walking in, he comes in, he's pimping, he had that swagger and this big afro. So I'm like, so who is that guy? Well, the guy said, "Oh, named Julius." I said, "Okay." So anyhow, I was fortunate enough to make that team. Paul Westphal made that team. Julius Irvin made that team. And I use that example of Julius making that team when I speak to young people about maximizing opportunities. So we went around the world. We won a gold medal. Julius goes to, they're playing the Rucker, and Charlie Scott, I guess, is on his team. And so Charlie Scott, who, the famous Charlie Scott who played at North Carolina, a long-time NBA player. So Charlie Scott said, he's operating. He's the doctor, Dr. J. So I saw Julius Irving get an opportunity, and he maximized it and became this great Hall of Fame player. Wow. And then there was another guy on the team, and I won't call his name, but he made the team too. And there's a reason why I don't want to call his name. But he ended up signing a contract, going to the pros, and somehow or another, he got caught messing with drugs. So that's the minimizing of opportunities. I mean, this gentleman, he was a great player, and thinking about it just is kind of a sad thing. But what a lesson for me to share with kids about, or young people about, when you get an opportunity, always give it your best. Maximize whatever opportunity. Don't minimize it. So when you ask me about Coach Knight and having that going from, we went from playing where the system we played in, it was, we were the running Hoosiers. If we didn't score 100 points, we weren't playing good basketball. But when Coach Knight came, we didn't score 50 points. I mean, but the teaching, the learning, I knew that this coach is going to teach me how to play the game the right way. Wow. So it was within the first 5 minutes of the first practice, I knew that we had a special coach.
Wow.
And yeah.
Great stories right there. And you were having success with Indiana. Your all your seasons. I mean, you were averaging above 17 points a game. Coach Knight comes in, puts his proverbial thumbprint on the program, and helps take your game and the Hoosiers to another level, even though it was a different style of basketball. But was he the kind of guy that just demanded the attention of the room? Was it one of those things when he walked in, everybody felt his presence and knew it was time to lock in? Kind of share what the emotion was like stepping on the floor when Coach Knight came in to run that practice as a player.
Well, we knew that he was a teacher.
Yep.
And that's what you could pick right up on, how to play defense, how to run. We didn't run motion offense. We had an offense that maximized the players that we had: Steve Downing, Bootsy White, and so what Coach did in terms of how he organized practice, how he gave us the understanding of our roles and responsibilities. That's something that quite frankly, that I didn't get before. And so, when somebody knows what they're talking about. And when Coach came in, but not only when I say we went from being the Hurricane Hoosiers to the Indiana Hoosiers, it was learning how to win. And Coach Knight had to change our culture completely. And that's what he went to work at. That's what he went to work on.
Wow.
And
being a coach, I understand what that means to come in and basically change the daily habits and your routines, and you were being drilled on specific positions and specific roles. And the fact that he identified roles to you players, I'm sure that had to be refreshing for a guy to be like, okay, I know my job. I've got to get 15 to 18 points a game. I need to get 8 to 10 rebounds. I need to play hard-nosed defense, or I'm not going to be playing.
Absolutely. And then the understanding of teamwork, the understanding of what it took to win a championship. Coach Knight was a great player. He was a great player when he was at Ohio State. And he had that experience of playing on a national championship team with Lucas and Silver and Havlicek. Yes. So when we went into that first practice, obviously we were scared. We were nervous. We didn't know what to expect. We had heard all these things about how tough he was going to be, but the thing too, and what helped me immensely was the fact that my junior year I had the opportunity to go to the ABA, and Coach Knight just happened to be in New York for his last camp at West Point, and I was in New York City. I was staying with Austin Carr, Sid Catlett, guys who were former stars at Notre Dame. And so one day I get a call from downstairs, and so I pick, it's Coach Knight. I said, Coach Knight? He said, yeah, Joby, come down. I want to talk to you. So to make a long story short, Coach was downstairs waiting with a guy called Mickey Corcoran. Mickey Corcoran was the high school coach of Bill Parcells, okay? So we went to lunch, and so we sat down and we really got to know each other. And so at the end of that lunch, and the way it was set up, the coach told me, he said, listen, Joby, I know you applied for the ABA. He said, but listen, come back to school and you're going to have You're going to get coached. You're going to have to go to class. So you mean you're going to graduate, and you're going to have many more opportunities to become the best that you can be. And so I said, let me think about that, Coach. Well, I did. So I called Coach up. I said, Coach, I took my name off. I took my name, but I'm coming back.
Wow.
But check this out. So when I get back to school, the NCAA said, "Well, you didn't take your name off the list on time." So for the first 2 weeks of practice, my senior year, I wasn't allowed to practice. So I would hang out at Coach Knight house or, hang out at the gym, but I couldn't go on the floor. So that gave me an opportunity to really get to know him, and for him to get to know me. So when I did get the chance to play, I was ready to go, because I was so scared. That's, what are they trying to do? They're trying to take away my senior year. But Coach Knight, he was there for me, and we worked through that. And one of the best things that ever happened, in my life was having the opportunity to play for Coach Knight and to be a part of Indiana basketball. And for that, I will always, be grateful, and what an honor and a privilege. Yes.
Joby, when I hear you say that, I hear and feel the sincerity in your voice. And the fact that he came to you, talked to you man to man, face to face, so that way he could paint and create and be a mentor for you to give you a roadmap to success. Because after your senior year, you get drafted by the Seattle Sonics, and you get to spend some time in the NBA, ABA. So just the fact that you had the trust and faith and you believed in him shows the relationship that you guys had built and that you guys were forming. But talk about to the viewers how important that trust was to remove your name from the list, believe in Coach Knight. He advocated for you with the NCAA. You have a fantastic senior year. And how much did that help prepare you for the Sonics opportunity?
Oh, yes. And the Sonic opportunity, that was, I got a cup of coffee for the Sonics, but what it helped me with in terms of having the right attitude, having the right understanding of the work, the commitment, and the effort, and the consistency you have to have, to play at the highest level. And playing for Coach Knight or playing in the Indiana program with Coach Knight, that's how you're going to get prepared. You're going to be prepared for not only to play competitive basketball at the highest level, but you're going to be prepared for life. And yes, I did play for Seattle. I played for 3 teams in the ABA, but I was the first American to play in the Canary Islands, Spain. I also had the opportunity to play for Burke, France. And we made it to the quarterfinals of the European Cup. And so I had a chance to play against Tel Aviv, Maccabi, and all those teams. We crushed them. And then I had the opportunity to play in Italy and Finland. And I got injured in Finland. And that's when I had to look in the mirror and say, you know what? You've given basketball all you got. So you better go back to school, because at that time, I was, I had a long way to go in terms of for graduating. So I made up my mind that I was going to go back to school. And so Coach Knight said, hey, listen, I had went back to Bloomington before I went to play in Finland. And this was right after they won the championship in '76. This was, oh, geez, boy, that's a long time ago, '77. And Coach Knight had offered me, say, you want an opportunity to be my grad assistant? I said, yeah, Coach, yeah. But instead of me doing that, I went to Finland and I got hurt. So then I had to go back. I had to write back to coach. I said, hey, Coach, is that offer still good, to be a grad assistant? So Coach wrote me back. He said, no. He said, when I offered you, you said you were going and you left. So I went back to Bloomington. And so Coach Knight said, you know what? You're on your own. And what it was a test. He wanted to see how committed I was to wanting to graduate from Indiana. So for a whole year and a half, I was just my pedal to the metal, and so I was able to graduate. And so when I got my BS degree, my undergrad degree, I went in to see Coach Knight. I said, hey, Coach, I graduated. He jumped up. He said, oh, my goodness. That's like the Bad News Bears beating the Yankees. He said, you graduated? He told me, when you left here, I had more credits at IU than you did. So, and I think, I'm saying that because I think all of that goes back to, having the opportunity to understand mental toughness, commitment, effort. I said that earlier, but that's where that came from, because I never had any coach speak on the core values like Coach Knight did, at that age, at my college age. So from that kind of preparation, from that kind of culture, I think that prepared me, for the challenges that I had to deal with going forward. Mm-hmm.
I love that, because if you think about today's microwave society, so many kids, and you're seeing transfer portal. I mean, that's a whole nother show. But the fact that you were committed and you had the discipline to say, hey, whether this is a test or not, I'm going to earn my degree. I'm going to show Coach Knight this matters to me. And then for him to open his arms and doors to you to come in. And then you were an assistant for 9 years and won 2 championships on that staff. So I think it was 1981 and 1987. You were a part of 2 championship runs. And I think about, and doing the research of those teams, I grew up in Indiana as well. So knowing about Isiah Thomas, Jim Thomas, Ted Kitchel, who was from my high school, Randy Whittman, Landon Turner, who had a tragic accident. But and then, what a special thing for you to come back, earn your degree, and now be a part of 2 championship runs. Talk about that first championship run with Isiah Thomas coming in from Chicago and just being a warrior on the court.
Yeah, Isiah, the first time I saw him play, I mean, this young man is special. And for him to right now be recognized as one of the greatest players to ever play is wow. That's
man.
But to be a part of that '81 championship team was really cool. It was cool from the standpoint that that team had to find itself, and one of the biggest reasons why we were able to find ourselves in '81, or that '81 team, was the development of Landon Turner. When we started the Big Ten season, Landon had put in a lot of work to get to that point where he started dominating teams, and then to see not only Isiah with his phenomenal skill set, but also when you look at that '81 team, and you think about, all right, the 76 team is considered one of the greatest college basketball teams of all time.
Yeah, undefeated season. Kent Benson.
Undefeated
Yeah.
team. Yeah. But that 81 team, when you compare the guards and the big men or the composition of the players, the individual skill set of the players, you can kind of see why that 81 team was special. Because once Landon kicked it in,
Wow.
we just blew everybody off the floor.
Yeah.
And then Isiah, I remember one episode where Isiah had an accident in his room, and he bumped his head on I think either a chair or a bed or something. So anyhow, so his face was swollen shut. Not his whole face, but his eye. There's either his right side or left. I can't remember which side he injured. But I never forget, we were getting ready to play Iowa. And Isiah, I think he might have got 32 points, 12 assists, 8 steals. I mean, and I'm sitting there thinking, wow, how can this kid play like that? And he's not 100% healthy because he was
Man.
injured. Yeah. And so that proved that not only was he a phenomenal basketball player, but this kid had that mental toughness. He had that focus, and he provided that team with the leadership, the vocal leadership, but the respect that the other players gave him. That was something special to see. And then Randy Whittman, that just popped. Randy Whittman was a phenomenal player in terms of not only could he knock the three down, and Randy wasn't what you call a vocal leader, but he was such a. I used to tell Randy this a long time ago. I don't know if he ever remember this. I said, Randy, if we got to the baseline and we had to race to the other end of the floor, you could run facing the floor, and I'll turn around backwards and I'll beat you down there. And he said, the point I'm trying to make is that Randy was so good defensively, playing lines and angles.
Ooh.
I mean,
Yeah.
when he played against guys who were quote unquote supposedly so much more athletic or so much more quicker, they couldn't get around him because he was so good at understanding that, hey, the court is perpendicular, but okay, but I'm gonna move a lot, and he was just outstanding in that regard. And then you mentioned Kitchel. If Kitchel didn't hurt his back, he would have been, I think, an amazing professional player.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people who didn't see him play would have known how great a player Ted Kitchel was. You got Ted Kitchel, you had Landon Turner, you had Ray Tolbert, Jim Thomas, Tony Brown. And not only were those great players, they were great people.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I can remember one time, Joby, again, with me graduating from Lewis Cass a few years behind Ted, I can remember Ted scoring like 40 points against Illinois, going 18 for 18 from the free throw line. He was just a nice shooting 6'8" white guy who, again, wasn't superbly athletic, but he always seemed like he was a coachable guy. And you could speak on that firsthand, what his work ethic was like and how he too could get to his spots, offensively for a high percentage shot, and the drill work that you guys would do daily within your offensive system. But they all complemented each other and everybody knew their roles.
Absolutely. And, going back to what I said earlier, the clarity that Coach provided in terms of giving you the understanding of your role, but your role could change depending on your development.
That's right.
For example, a guy who needed to work on his dribbling, and he improves his dribbling or ball handling, a guy that needed to work on his shooting, well, then that's going to change the team. And so your team is going to change from the beginning of the season to the end of the season
I
because your
love it.
guys have worked on their skill set and have gotten better. Yeah, but going back to Kitchel, no, he wasn't a great athlete, but he was a good athlete, and he had a sweet three. That 3-point shot he had, oh man, he
Yeah,
had
he had
him
great
on one side
mechanics
and
and
Randy
great
on the
form.
other, and yes, sir, and Isiah in the middle. It was a very difficult team to defend.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
yeah.
That toughness from the south side of Chicago, leading and kind of, inflicting his will by, just leading by example, and that mental toughness that you talked about. What a special group to be around. And then, a few years later in 87, you win another championship. And I believe you had a big part to do with bringing in the first JuCo players ever in my buddy Keith Smart and Dean Garrett. Share that story, because I've overheard you in the past talk about, talking or trying to convince Coach Knight that these junior college players could help the team and help the program go in another direction. Share those stories with our viewers.
Well, I remember we were sitting in the cave one day, and we had, I think we had lost a couple of games in a row, and at that time, there was no such thing as the NIL, but there were people who were getting some things like NIL. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
right.
So
Friends
I
of
was
the
in the,
program, boosters.
yeah. So Coach and I were talking, and I asked Coach about junior college players, and I said, Coach, would you consider recruiting a junior college player? Coach said, what? Have you heard what I said about, I don't, and so we talked a little bit more. We talked a little bit more, and then the next, I think the next game we played, we lost that game. So Coach said, okay, all right, tell me a little bit more about this junior college thing. I said, okay, but he said, but wait a minute. He said, now let me tell you something. If this thing don't work, I know where there's a high school coach job in Mississippi, and I'm from Savannah, Georgia, and I didn't want to be a high school coach in Mississippi. So I said, Coach, we're gonna make this work. But the interesting thing about that, when I made the first call to Dean Garrett's coach at San Francisco Community College, I think that's the same school that the infamous O.J. Simpson went to. And so before U.S. Southern Cal.
Yeah.
And so Dean's coach answered, Brad Dugan. He answers the phone. I said, Coach Dugan, this is Joby Wright calling, and I'm calling about Dean Garrett and Coach Knight or Indiana. We're interested in Dean. And he said, what? Coach Knight don't recruit junior college. And he hung the phone up in my face. So I had to call him, several back to back. And after the fourth time, he said, are you serious? I said, yes. We want to recruit Dean Garrett. Okay. And the interesting thing about Dean, when I went and saw Dean play for the first time, Dean could jump, he could run and jump, but he had to, there was some things he had to work on in terms of his running mechanics. And I'll tell you why. Dean, because California was not in the national championship like for junior colleges.
Right. Yeah,
because they have their own championship out there.
They had their own championship in California because the big junior college tournament was at Hutchinson.
That's right.
Yeah. So anyhow, an IU grad student was one of the medical people at the California championship, and she saw Dean, and she was working Dean out, and she discovered how if he worked on his flexibility, how that could really help him. So when we got Dean to IU, Sam Bell, who was the head track coach, wrote up a program to help Dean improve his running mechanics. And then Dean had the backside of like two baseballs and build up his glutes and the muscles in his lower back. And this brother jumping ability improved about 10 inches.
Wow.
So Dean ends up being a newcomer of the year to Big Ten because we had somebody say, hey, you know, we need to work on his running mechanics. And so by improving his running mechanics, strengthening his glutes, I saw improved his jumping about 10 inches. Now, okay,
attention to detail and just the littlest things to try to find a way to gain an advantage and assist somebody with a skill set, that's being in tune with the craft. And the fact that you guys picked up on that and helped that part of the development, that's a game changer.
You know, and the other part, Keith, you know, at Garden City Community College, I'm remembering
in Kansas, that's right.
I remember the first time laying my eyes on him, and I'm saying, now this kid here, I could tell by his attitude, his conduct, his character, and his conversation. I said, this is a special kid. And the first night I went to see him play, he scored like 47 points. You know, and the thing about Keith, it was, I think it was his sophomore year in high school. He was coming home from work and was involved in a traffic accident.
Yeah.
And he ended up in a body cast and grew like 10 inches or something like that. And so a lot of people didn't know about Keith until he got in at JC.
Right.
But when he came to IU, he fell in love with the atmosphere of Assembly Hall, and those guys. That turned out to be a pretty good deal to get those two guys there. And the thing that was so special about that '87 team was the fact that we won the championship in New Orleans, and Keith is from Baton Rouge.
That's right. Yeah.
And it was about 2 minutes in the game. Keith gets pulled out of the game, and I remember telling Keith, keep your head in it, keep your head in. I said, you get a chance to go back in. So he goes back in with about 1:10 on the clock.
In Syracuse, yeah.
Yeah, and the pass goes into Daryl Thomas, and Daryl Thomas breaks going to and throws it back out to Keith, and Keith, with 2 seconds ago, let the ball go, and when it came through the net, boom. And I was so happy for the fact that when we only lost 3 games that year in '87, but every time we lost a game, somehow another Keith, Dean, and myself would end up with Coach Knight talking about, hey, you guys, you guys better step it up. You guys better come through. And when Keith hit that shot, I said, he did it. He did. I think I hollered louder than anybody in that arena.
I've said Keith's one of my best friends, and Keith tells that story that he says, that entry pass into Daryl and then Daryl kicking it back out. He says that's a drill that you guys had done thousands of times before. So it was almost like it just came natural and it was just a habit. So for him, there was no hesitation. He caught it. Daryl hit him in perfect, stance. Keith takes the shot. And of course, the rest is history.
That's right. Hit the post and relocate. That's exactly right. That was the move. That was a situation that we called it. Hit the post and relocate. Yes, sir.
I love it. Well, and you think about too, Brian Sloan was a member of that team. Coach Sloan out here with the Utah Jazz, as I live in Utah now, I got to observe and consult with Coach Sloan, but to have his son on that team, I mean, again, think of those players on that team. You had Joe Hillman, Brian Sloan, Lyndon Jones, Jay Edwards from Marion, Indiana. What a great group of guys again with high character who was coachable. And again, Coach Knight, with his colorful personality and choice vocabulary, gets the best out of the players. Let's be honest.
And but you mentioned Jay Edwards and Lyndon Jones. Those guys won 3 straight state championships. They were winners.
Giants. Yeah,
Yeah,
Purple Rain.
yeah, they were winners. They were winners. And old Sloan, you talk about set of picks. That guy could set a pick. They talk about pick and roll. He knew how to set the pick and step to the open spot. But those guys were once again not only competitors, but they were very smart guys. Sloan's a doctor. I mean, how many? I think 2 or 3 of those guys end up being physicians. Right. That's the cool thing. That's the cool thing looking back, Scott.
That's right.
That all the guys that played on those championship teams in 81 and 87, they're all doing something great.
That's right. The impact in community and changing lives.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
Coach,
yes.
I love that. And matter of fact, happy belated to Coach Knight. Just a couple of days ago, he just had his birthday. So
yes.
Happy birthday to Coach Knight. He's an icon. He's a legend. Matter of fact, he could have probably been, one of the highest ranking officials in Indiana, but he would have had to take a pay cut. But everybody loved Coach Knight. I mean, he was such an impact on the state of Indiana for how he got the best of his players and ran the program. And, for you to be able to have a front row seat to a clinic every day, what an impact that made on your life as well, and continue to impact others through the knowledge and clinics and just a wealth of knowledge, a walking encyclopedia of basketball. Coach Knight is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Coach doesn't get the credit he deserves for the impact he had on international basketball.
That's
and
right.
what I mean by that is the last 2 years that I was assistant coach at Indiana, Coach has started a coaching education clinic. And we would have almost 1,000 coaches show up, for those clinics for a weekend. But throughout the course of the season, every season that I was an assistant at Indiana, you would have the national team coach of Italy, the national team coach of France, the national team coach of Spain, the national team coach of 4 or 5 other countries come through to observe, practice, to receive the knowledge that Coach was putting down. And
that's an ambassador of the game, giving back to the game, and what an impact globally that he truly made that people don't even talk about, and the generosity of people that he's helped that he wants no credit for and doesn't want people to even talk about. But I've heard those stories, and I bear witness to the fact, as you have, he's impacted so many lives in such a positive way, of these guys not only being doctors and lawyers, physicians, but also guys that, do amazing things in their communities with so many thousands of players that he's been able to, touch and guide and be a mentor for.
Absolutely. Interestingly, now so many kids who play basketball, they got a trainer. They got a trainer to work on their physical skills, individual skill development. That's something that I think there needs to be a refocus, not just on the development of individual skills, but understanding the mental aspect of the game. And one of the things that I learned there at Indiana is how the mental aspects of the game compare to the physical aspects. And Coach used to say, as the number 4 is to 1, the mental compared to the physical. And so, I remember leaving when I left Miami to go out to Wyoming as coach. it was the first time when I got at Wyoming that I ever did a team camp, because I was always, individual skill development camp. And back when I first was an assistant at Indiana, what was really cool to see was the fact that the coaches who were at the stations of the individual skill development camp at Indiana were head coaches, and they were from either Ohio, Illinois, a couple from Michigan, but from the Midwest, probably was the majority of where the coaches from. But not only were these young players being taught by head coaches, before each session, we would go over with those coaches how we wanted them to teach the players. Yep. So yeah, coach, you're head coach, and we know you might teach your fundamentals this way, but you're going to teach it the way Coach Knight teaches the game.
So not only is he developing players, he's developing coaches and putting tools in a coach's toolbox to make them better teachers of the game.
And then also that network, and you had a lot of those coaches leave with an understanding of what type of player could play for Coach Knight or play in Coach Knight's system. And then also those coaches could see not the whole picture, but they can get an idea of the culture. And then, coaches take a night out where we would have a special meeting with all the coaches where they give them an opportunity when we had the camps to ask him questions and develop that personal relationship. Whereas and you said it very accurately, not only are we developing young players, but developing a coaching network.
Yeah, I love that, Coach. I think of so many wonderful things coming out, and let's give you your flowers, because here's a guy from Savannah who came in, did big things, and now look at you having a great career, 3 years at Miami of Ohio, won over 20 games a season, gave North Carolina a scare. Then you get out to Laramie, Wyoming, you're building a program again. You don't get enough credit for the things that you've also done with the opportunities that you were given, and you maximize on those. But that wealth of knowledge that you were able to obtain from Coach Knight year after year, tell me this, because we got 4 or 5 minutes. What did it mean to you emotionally to see Coach Knight come back to Assembly Hall after multiple years of being away and see the crowd and the community and all of his former players there embrace him and show him the love that he so deserved after all those years?
Well, you could just see it and feel it. I know that everyone who was there, and I didn't get an opportunity to get there because of I had some sickness in my family, but Coach Knight being there, I saw every second of it. Yeah, I could just see the emotion. I could feel the passion, and more importantly, for just to see Coach come back and be recognized for how special he is to the people of Indiana.
Yeah, there were a lot of tears that night of just joy and gratitude and happiness, and almost like, I'm not going to call it closure, but at least it was healing of a wound, because for Coach to be gone all that time, again, by his choice, but yet to see that entire community and campus and institution embrace him the way they did, and that crowd, unbelievable, Coach, unbelievable sporting moment that, again, probably doesn't get the credit it deserves or the acknowledgement that it deserves unless you were truly a part of that program for all those years.
you could never duplicate that. I mean,
Ooh,
that was so real, and it
authentic.
was so real. It was one of the most beautiful experiences. Yeah, it was unbelievable for Coach to come back and be shown that kind of love and respect that he deserves.
I love it, Coach. Coach, this is I can't believe that we've already been talking for 50 minutes. We've got a couple minutes here. Do you have any closing words or stories that you could share that you've never opened up before, just to let our viewers kind of get the appetizer of what it was like to be a part of that tradition, that culture, those candy stripe warm-up pants? Give people a behind the curtain feel of what it meant to coach Joby Wright.
Oh man,
That's a loaded question.
yeah. For me personally, I remember going back to a game a few years ago, and it was a good crowd, and but but I said no. When I was here, it was 10 times louder. When we used to go into the cave and watch film, I didn't know it at the time, but there were hardly any people that were dissecting tape or dissecting a game like we were.
Right.
And that's no boast or trying to say. There's just the truth.
Yep.
And we would go in after a game and we would watch a game maybe 3 times. So now we're talking about from 11 at night until about 4 or 5 in the morning. And that's where you get that was so special to me. When we would be in that, because that's when I really learned basketball, to be a part of that process, to get prepared to play the next game. And another reason why that was so special to me, I remember a game that I went and scouted, and it was Western Kentucky playing Tulane. I'll never forget. And so I got to come back and give a scouting report. And so we're there in the cave, and okay, so we got Coach Knight, obviously, and the guys on the staff at that time. But also, we had in that room C.M. Newton. We had, Wayne Embry. Wimp Sanders. It was 2 or 3 other coaches there who, and out of the guys there, 3 of them had won. Pete Newell. So okay, Joby, go give the scouting report. So I go up to the board and I got this Sharpie and I couldn't draw a straight line, because I'm overwhelmed with all these. They're looking at me like, okay, Joby, tell us what they're doing, Joby, tell us what they're doing. So the cave was where I received the knowledge. And for that, oh man. Now sometimes after a game, if we lost to like Michigan or Purdue, or you might have to wear a helmet, when you're sitting in there. But outside of, no, I'm just kidding about that. But the cave and having the opportunity to break down a game with Coach Knight, and we're doing it 3 times. We're doing over. We watch it again, then we watch it again, and then we watch the game again. So the knowledge and the understanding of how to teach the game, how to organize it, how to develop a culture, and just to be a part of that. I am just so grateful and thankful.
Yeah, Coach, this has been a wonderful hour. You still have your Right Way Foundation. You work as a global ambassador yourself with NBA Africa, which I would love to, assist you and be a part of. But continue to impact the youth and continue to give back because the wealth of knowledge you have, man, it would be phenomenal to see you write a book and share that knowledge and wisdom to kind of ignite another flame. And I have so much respect for you. We go way back. I can remember working your camps at Miami, Ohio. I remember, working with you and recruiting players from the University of Wyoming to come to Chaminade with me. I even sent you a player when you were with the Globetrotters, Marcus Saxon. But Coach, my love, respect, and admiration for you. I love you, brother. Thank you so much for sharing this time with the viewers of the Coach Scott Field Show.
Scott, this is awesome what you're doing. I'm so proud of you. As you said, I've been knowing you a long time, and to see you grow professional, I'm just man, just keep doing what you're doing because I think it's just great it's just a great show. It's a great opportunity to talk basketball. And if I could share one last quick story, the opportunity to be a part of the first group to establish the NBA in Africa was a tremendous opportunity. And I was over a program called the Royal Bafokeng Basketball Development Program. Wow. And this was in South Africa. And this particular part of South Africa, basketball was not even a code, or it wasn't one of the sports that they were offering. Yeah. So we had to build basketball at the grassroots level from nothing. And so we started with 25 kids. 23 of them couldn't make a layup. 24 of them couldn't shoot a jump shot. And from those 25 kids, that program now is the flagship program for NBA Africa. And over 150,000 kids have come through there. So many kids have graduated from college with their undergraduate degrees. So many have graduated with their masters. And we even had, they brought me back in a few years ago. They recognized me as the founder of the program. And we had 4 kids there who had received their PhD. And we all started from them 25. And I'm very, very proud of that program.
Man, Coach, that's phenomenal work. The fact that when you say grassroots to me, I know that's from the dirt, dust up. So congratulations to you. Continue the work that you do. Again, nothing but love. I can't wait to get you out here so we can sit there and continue to tell stories as we're out there catching some monster trout, my man.
Looking forward to it, Scott, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
You got it, my man. God bless you, my brother. Nothing but love.
And tell your family I said hi, especially your dad.
Yeah,
that's my
dad. There you go. There you go. You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Coach Joby Wright, a Indiana Hall of Famer. And that sports Hall of Fame recognition we got to share together is well deserved. And I know he humbly accepts that honor. But thank you for sharing this hour with us. Thank you for tuning in. And stay tuned for another edition of the Coach Scott Field Show. Coach Joby Wright, God bless you. I love you, brother.
Love you too, my brother.